I need to tell you about the boats that almost nobody took seriously at the start of the war, and how their crews basically hacked their own tactics into something genuinely terrifying. PT boats. 80 feet long, built out of mahogany and plywood glued together, that's genuinely the construction. No armor at all. If a shell so much as grazed one of these things, it could tear straight through the hull. On paper, this should not have been a weapon that mattered in a real naval war. And here's the part that made it worse early on. Their main weapon, torpedoes, barely worked. The Mark 13 torpedoes these boats carried were famously unreliable. They'd run too deep, fail to detonate, sometimes just not fire at all. In one nighttime ambush against a Japanese destroyer convoy in the Solomons, a group of PT boats fired 30 torpedoes at the enemy. 30. And did essentially zero damage. One of those boats left behind that night was PT-109, commanded by a young lieutenant named John F. Kennedy, and it ended up getting rammed and sliced nearly in half by a Japanese destroyer in the dark. So crews in the Solomons basically stopped relying on the torpedoes altogether. Japan was moving troops and supplies through this stretch of water nicknamed the slot using small, shallow draft barges, and it turned out torpedoes couldn't even reach them. They ran too deep to hit something that shallow in the water. So PT crews switched almost entirely to guns instead. 20mm cannons, 50 caliber machine guns, mounted on these small fast boats that could sneak in close in total darkness. Then radar started getting installed on more of these boats, and that's when things really shifted. Now crews could sit silently in the dark, completely invisible, track an approaching barge or convoy on radar with no lights and no sound giving them away, and then open fire from close range before the enemy even knew they were there. Night after night, in strait after strait throughout the Solomons, these tiny plywood boats were quietly grinding down Japan's ability to resupply and reinforce its own island garrisons. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the daring torpedo runs that got romanticized in the newsreels back home. It was patient, dark, close-range ambush work, using the one weapon that actually worked instead of the one everyone assumed they needed. And it worked well enough that Japanese troops on islands throughout the Solomons started running desperately short on food, ammunition, and replacements, largely because of boats built out of glued plywood that nobody in the Navy originally expected to matter at all. If stories like this, the ones about weapons nobody respected until they found the trick that actually worked, are your kind of thing, stick around because this channel is full of exactly these.